Imagine a metaphor on the cop photo. So these lot devise of strange orthopedic ways to torture their victims, children or adults, it doesn't make any difference to them. And so they're devising of orthopedic ways to torture their victims. And in that manual, Dissociation and Repression, at the end of the manual, you've got a write-up by Francis Bacon. In the middle of the manual, you've got the chapter by Gary E. Schwartz, who Gary Dixon modelled himself upon. And at the beginning of the chapter, you've got write-ups about Dr. Schreiber's Kopfhorter, which is an orthopedic contraption designed to chin strap children. It's a headset that goes over the head that looks a bit like a gimp mask with a chin strap to keep the mouth shut. And then on the back of the Kopfhorter, there's a latch that connects to underwear or the genitalia of the tortured victim. So if they try to move their head, they end up pulling themselves down under. So they've got to maintain an erect posture with their chin strapped in being tortured. That's the Kopfhorter from the clinical manual Dissociation and Repression. Now, in a metaphorical sense, that's what Gary Dixon and his gaffer John Bacon and the relatives of John Bacon are doing here in Kettering, Northamptonshire. They are Kopfhortering their victim. Gary's aggrandised the fact he's having me tortured here with the BDSM gimp mask pornography, and that's linked to the Kopfhorter. The gimp mask is a Kopfhorter. A Kopfhorter is just a German way of mentioning pretty much the same device. And the same way as he's tying the ropes through the headset, the latch on the top of the headset to tie the head, pull the head back into that erect position. Now this is what they're doing in Havering and Kettering with their victim. They've got me chin strapped till. Anything I post to the internet's blocked or barred, censored. Their victim silenced. It's like his gaffer, when his gaffer would give kids bowls of lamb stew that had been laced with hashish or pharmaceutical drugs so he could lube them up with lamb stew. The silence of the lambs, the Kopfhortering of the victims. Now, over in Essex, they had my genitalia mutilated. That's all the soluble stitches through the scrotum and what they had done to me down under whilst having me tortured as a child. Now, it's like the Kopfhorter, isn't it? You chin strap the victim, you put the headset on them, and you attach the cord to the back of the Kopfhorter to the underwear or the genitalia, forcing the victim to maintain an erect posture while silenced. Otherwise, they're going to induce affliction and suffering elsewhere. This is what they're doing. Because I spoke out about what they were doing in Havering and confronted them and had it out with them as a teenager, they've set up this practice between Kettering and Havering. And here in Kettering, they've got a grudge because I've exposed their relative for what he was doing to me, and I wasn't willing to be one of their pacified, silenced victims who had the silence of the lambs treatment put on him, left lame-legged, lambed off for it. Because I've spoken out about it back in Havering and had it out with them then they've re-established this connection here preemptively with the strategic housing management policy chartering the abuse from Havering to Kettering, Northamptonshire. It's like a Kopfhorter, a metaphorical Kopfhorter, and just to really add to it all. That's why Gary made one of those movies that he had was of the BDSM one, the bondage and the domination of the Bacons and the Dixons, the BDSM linked to the clinical exploitation and torturing of their victims. And it's aggrandized with the BDSM Kopfhorter Gimp movie, linked to me being left lame-legged, limp-legged, lambed off for it. But that's also linked back to the clinical manual, Dissociation and Repression, as advocated and appropriated by his gaffer in the Royal Liberty of Havering Atty Bowell, when they were having children ritually tortured, clinically butchered, chemical castration techniques for their Jewish, what they believe to be their Jewish victims. They're due to be castrated, genitalia mutilation, forearm butchery. I don't know if you can see this big scar in my right arm, what the police and the NHS had done to me. A lot of this goes back to they brought a big gang to my house, and I got told that they had robbed this Spanish lass, and I stuck up for her. And because I threatened their gang with a weapon and set my German Shepherd dog on them and chased them away from the house with a gang, the police and the NHS butchered my right arm because I brandished a weapon threatening their gang, chasing them away from the house. They brought a big gang to my family house, and I've been told that they'd robbed a young girl. There was a Spanish girl, and because I stuck up for this Spanish Catholic class, they tortured me for it. They butchered my right arm for a year, and that's what I got for brandishing a weapon, chasing their little gang of Nazi thugs away from my mother's house. There's nothing new with them. The NHS, the National Health Service, and the clinical social sciences advocating or misappropriating surgical and clinical procedures that are preemptively designated to be able to afflict and torture their victims. I remember when I was a kid, they're having me tortured by them, and they've got the police and the NHS involved in their exploits. And anytime I tried to make a complaint about it, they would say, write a statement and we will do something about it. And I'd be sitting there with all my hand flimsy where they'd severed all of the tendons in the nerves in the right arm for a whole year. So I was in no position to write anything. I couldn't even use my right hand. My right hand was dysfunctional. This didn't work for the severed nerves and tendons in the right arm. But just to be extra sarcastic about it, they'd say, write something about it, write a statement, and we'll do something about it. Now, in recent years, I've written hundreds of thousands of statements, more pages than I care to remember for 10 years, and nearly almost everything that I've posted to the internet has never been read by anyone. It's never been commented on, liked by anyone. There's never any, because of the Dixon's Group thing here with Gabby Dixon, with Dixon's Group PLC, Hemel Hempstead, Hertfordshire. They own the Carphone Warehouse, and Dixon's Group Retail own Currys, and they curry favour with a lot of people in high places. So between Dixon's Group in Currys and the Carphone Warehouse and the telecommunications and broadcasting industry, they've got it all wrapped up behind the scenes so they can have their victims systematically censored, isolated and secluded, so they can have them ritually tortured. It was no different in Havering. The same methodology was appropriated when it came to picking out their child victims. The first method deployed is finding ways to ostracize, isolate, and seclude the child victim, so it makes it easier for them to pick the victim out when they want to exploit the victim. And that's what's going on here in Kettering, Northamptonshire for 10 years. 10 years of internet censorship. 10 years of writing facts and statements with my butchered right arm sitting here with a needle embedded in the top of my leg, being tortured by them with an RF field generator. And I'm sitting here writing thousands and thousands of statements no one's ever read. And it's the same with these videos. I'll probably post these videos to the internet and nobody will ever watch them.